re-release of a podcast originally recorded in 2012 following the closing of Wrassle.net. It has been broken into two parts to make it easier for you to listen to. This is part one.
Okay, we're back and we're going to do one more podcast. We're starting with a different crew today. Miller is working because he's a douche. He works the night shift. You'll notice the distinct lack of douche. That's because Miller's not here. And Rude disappeared right when we decided to start, so we're going to start without him. However, we do have a guest joining us right from the get-go tonight, and that guest is none other than Benjamin F. Blair. Benny. So Benny is joining Jason and I, and we are going to get caught up. We've got a couple of topics for this week, and obviously one of them will be the big news that a post went up yesterday in Wrassle. It was from Hogg, and it basically said that at the end of August he's done and they're shutting it down. And then the other topic we're going to touch on is the constant recurring rumor that there is a super secret society of inner circle people in our group and everybody else just gets kicked in the face. So before we jump into that, I'm just going to take a quick tour through kind of some of the things that have gone on this week in Federation X. The boards all got overhauled, so there's a bit of a different look for people who jumped in. We took all the admin boards and we pushed them into one board so that regardless of where people were posting, regardless of what Fed they were hanging out in or what card they were on, everybody kind of knew what was going on because all of the OOC was going on the same board from now on. We finally decided to cut ties with the show brand, Titus being out and it not really making the transition to the tour that was supposed to happen when Dice retired, and some struggles with Brimstone getting it to go on his own. And we brought in a new promotion called Good Wrestling, obviously run off the premise of the Good Guys, and all three of us can speak to that. Also, for those of you who didn't catch it, GLCW has declared itself rogue and has made the statement that they are breaking away from Federation X, a angle which to me seems to be spurring a Geno versus Ridgeway power struggle, which should be pretty entertaining. There was a swerve this week when Falcon took a turn on Rev over in GLCW, and we saw some early indicators of the fights that hopefully will manifest in the first card in Good when Austin James jumped Marlowe, and then Diggsy Brown jumped Austin James. However, I think clearly the most interesting jump of the week was when Ice jumped me. So on that note, let's talk about the fact that Wrassle's announced they're closing their doors again. Guys, what were your initial thoughts when you found out?
I'll start. Initially, I was surprised, but after a few seconds, I said to myself, well, it shouldn't actually be surprising. I know that Icehawg's very busy and from talking to Fax here and there or whoever over on that side, it was pretty well known that he was a hard person to contact at times. So him not having time to do the things that he wanted to for that game, definitely not a surprise.
Hey, before you get off of that, because I know you've got a bit of a friendship with Fats, let me just throw this out here. Not cool to try and steal my white heat, Fats. Completely unacceptable to try and take credit for my white heat.
You know, Jeff, it's a good thing you mentioned it now in the podcast, because from talking to Fats, he can really only get through about 20 to 30 minutes of our podcast now that they're going up to 2 hours and whatnot.
Right.
Although Rude wants it to go 5 hours in each podcast, but
I think Rude would like us to move into permanent radio where we just take turns and we're always on the air.
Yes, we could have all of his thoughts throughout the day on the air.
Because that's what we need, more of Rude's thoughts. You know what? Let's bash him while he's not here.
Of course, that's kind of what you got to do, especially if he's not going to show up.
It's pretty much all we do, anyways.
Wait, is Rude inactive on the podcast?
There's a shocker.
He killed himself.
He made it through four podcasts in 4 weeks. Yeah, that's about a typical Rude activity.
That's right.
Why don't we just see if we can get the guy that does Kermit the Frog?
I knew somebody was going to say that. That's so awesome. Okay, so I think that's a fair first reaction. What did you think, Benny?
Honestly, like when I left Wrassle, I mean, it was kind of going downhill. Like you could see that people were just leaving, just because of like real life. Like
Right.
Prototype was gone, White Light was gone. I think like Holy Evil and Naked Man were on the way out. So to me, it was just like I started looking at that and going, there's really not that many people here that I still want to interact with.
Right.
And it was actually Battlestone that kind of came to me and said, why don't you try FedEx? And I think I picked his brain about it. And then I asked him like 9 times, are you sure I can say whatever I want? Can I really say whatever I want? Now you're 100% certain. Say whatever I want, right?
That must have been just like crack to a crack addict for you, eh?
It was like Christmas morning.
Somebody told you there were free drugs, and you were like, "Are they really free? Really free?
Really?"
Listen, my gut reaction when I saw it, honestly, was I was a little surprised initially. I was probably more surprised by the fact that Ice decided to go off on me than I was by this.
That was such a weird tangent. Like at the end of his whole, like, oh, I'm sorry guys, we're closing the thing, and by the way, Gray's an asshole. What?
Yeah, the biggest part of it that made no sense to me was the suggestion that he was ragingly angry because I was the reason the two kind of communities weren't playing together. And that's patently untrue, especially through the last round of negotiations. And Jason can tell you or confirm for people that when that originally came up, the suggestion that I was an impediment to it working was brought forward. And I was the first person on the Powerbase forums to say, guys, I can just literally get out of the way and stop playing if that will allow this group to kind of become whole again, because I thought it's what the game needed. And because the final vote was unanimous and there were like 8 people with a vote, my vote was irrelevant. So I thought it was a little funny when I read it, but I thought it was funnier that he was angry about it, because if we had come together, wouldn't it just be more people he was pissing off when he shut the site down?
That's really one way of looking at it. I suppose you could look at it the other way and say, I mean, when you compare the two, especially like in the last year or two, we definitely have the more talented writers, just flat out. I mean, Colt is awesome, but every time that I would go to Wrassle, I'd just be like, okay, there's really nobody here that I actually want to read. There's nobody here who entertains me. And it just kind of scuttle back to FedEx.
Well, and I think one of the challenges of those arguments is that if you put, and this was always my problem with the training fed, you put a whole bunch of people together that are C's, who are they going to learn to be a B from?
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there is to it. When the mentality is, well, I'm going to play over here because those guys are hardcore, or they play harder, or they're more convicted in their character, or they're just tougher to deal with, or they're more daunting, and I don't win as much. So I'm going to go over here where I win all the time, and it's not the same level of challenge. Well, how are you ever going to get to that level? Like I just never understood that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've all put in our time in this game.
Very true. I put in my time and your time and Jason's time. I had to put in Jason's time because he never plays.
Oh, of course not.
I play a good 2 months a year.
A solid 2. Well, I guess one of the things that I wanted to ask since this has gone up, and I think the gut reaction from all of us were about the same. A little bit of a surprise reaction, and then a kind of a thought, and maybe it's not that surprising.
Yeah, and then you read Icehawg's announcement, and you go, really? And then you go, yeah.
I mean, not to rain on the guy, certainly can code. He knows way more about it than I do.
Of course. And Icehawg, I mean, as far as the whole Wrassle executive committee or whatever they called themselves were, like, he was always the cool one. Like, hey, I make a funny joke now. Really? And he comes out with something like that. And I'm just like, wow, Icehawg.
There was a time, and I've said this to other people. I don't know if you guys remember. There was a time when they would hire people to do editorial pieces on the news board that weren't actually related to the game, and I used to write for them. way back when.
Oh, like
And-
a real wrestling?
Well, yeah, a little. I mean, a lot of my editorializing was, I did a top, a top 10 tag teams of all time, and it took me 2 different editorials to get through it all. And I did a top 10 singles guys and why, and which matches were best and what was wrong with the industry. And one of the ones I did kind of correlated to the fact that I think the WWE got away from doing things that I couldn't see coming. I think they telegraphed everything. I think the writers thought we were stupid enough that they could telegraph things and then it would still be a surprise when it happened.
That's really what happens when you play to the lowest common denominator.
Right. And
Which when you think about it, which is kind of what Wrestle's been doing the last couple of years.
I agree. And one of the things that I wrote when I was talking about the need for surprise was that I really felt like the game that we played needed that too. And the masking was my suggestion. And when it was originally launched, Ice gave me credit for it right there on the main board. That was probably the last day he and I were on good terms. I have no idea why, but apparently that was the last day.
Probably your abrasive personality.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I mean, I've never let you forget that I came to New York and you couldn't even come out for a beer and you went home crying about needing sleep.
I didn't go home crying. I was already home.
Speaking of, I'm in New Jersey in October in East Rutherford. Is that close enough for us to get together?
I could definitely do that.
Yeah, you say that, but really, let's be honest. Are you going to show up? Because I'm going to talk about it if you don't.
Well, first of all, why are you in East Rutherford? Besides Giant Stadium, there's fucking nothing there.
Yeah, there's a trade show I have to go to.
Comic book?
No, for work.
Well, I mean, yeah, it could have gone either way on that one.
Listen,
you gotta get credit.
I'm not even denying. I mean, I think I already sent Benny a message today saying you have to read this particular comic book.
Yeah, because in the back of my head, I was going, I think Johnny Storm is like Fantastic Four or something.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
Okay,
Anyways, you still need to go look it up and read it. It's definitely Benny living with Marlo. It's awesome.
That's a scary picture. Right
I was in hysterics. So it's been a while for you since you transitioned over. Are there things looking back that you look at and you think, man, it would really have been better if they'd come together so that we could have had some of that with what we do? Is there anything that you think, man, we really lost out because we couldn't bring it together?
No. I mean, there's little things, I guess. I mean, I basically started in C-Slam.
Right.
I guess like 2 months before the doors closed. And I think...
Hold on. Let's pause there. Were you interesting then? Because you're interesting now.
Yeah. The first post that I ever did, I basically ripped off Edge and Christian's whole, when they were like overly Canadian.
I love that.
They were talking about Coca-Cola or soda. Like, let's go get some soda. And like, I had basically a whole post about that. And then somebody, I think it was like Blazing Bull or something, like replied to it. So like, dude, I just saw that on WWE last night, or it was WWF back then, but
yeah,
he basically said that, and I was like, oh, well, okay. And then, like, right going into that weekend, there was a whole, our commissioner in the IDLSW, I think Osiris and Benny and one of Homeless Jay's alts were over there.
Really?
Yeah. And basically what happened was he stranded us all on a desert island. So I think Benny tried to dig a hole to China because he figured that would be better than living under the rule of Stomp, the commissioner.
Wow. I remember that commissioner.
Once they basically said, dude, we watch wrestling. You're playing exactly like wrestling. I was like, well, okay, I'll just do whatever the fuck I want.
So what you're saying is people encouraged you to become Benny Blair.
I think they encouraged me not to conform to the quote-unquote does finger thingy wrestler mold.
Right.
And I just kind of went from there. And then, yeah, I mean, it was maybe a month, and I was in the CWO, and then, Holy Evil had an alt there, Stormfire was there, Naked Man had an alt there, Jordan was there, I think it's
Psychomantis, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, but they pretty much just recruited me, and
And fit right in.
pretty much history.
Yeah. So you go through from Slam into Wrassle. I mean, you're a guy who's
Not directly.
Did you go to the Brawls first?
No, I was in Mav's original CWA.
Okay.
It was just that Fed board that was kind of like.
Oh shit! I remember that.
It was way scaled down and stuff.
Mhm.
Like we didn't even have a sim
Right.
thing, so it was all RP, and like I think probably a dozen AODers came over there.
All RP and a dozen AODers.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I was only in C-Slam for like 5 or 6 months before it closed. And I didn't consider myself great, and I still don't consider myself great. So nothing's changed. But I remember looking at that. What'd you say?
I said, "Don't worry about it. Nobody considers you great."
Oh,
Wow.
at least it's consistent.
Yeah, this is true.
Ed
But I remember
considers
being
you
in-
great.
I remember being intimidated by that board. I was looking at it, and I'm like, oh my god, there's some names here. I don't want to post here.
Yeah, it was a pretty intimidating board, especially like 2 months into the game, and you're looking at it and you're going, "Wow!" Like a lot of the names from C-Slam actually came here. I'm going to go in the corner and do my own thing with the other AODers.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly, you were comfortable going somewhere like that based just on kind of the things you focus on when you talk about, the big strength, obviously, that Wrassle has and had in the past going for it was that backside code that had nothing to do with role play, whether it was the sim, whether it was, the arm wrestling competition or the move list or the depth of the clickable game was really the strength of Wrassle. Do you think we lose out not having that?
Honestly, I think you're talking to the wrong guy about that because I'm not even. I don't think I've even activated myself on the sim site here. It's all about the story.
I believe that.
I'll say it a million times. Wrestling wrestlers who wrestle people is kind of gay, but it does make for good characters and good stories.
Right. Yes, I've heard that from you on a number of occasions.
I haven't even watched wrestling since when was it that Jericho became like the first unified champion?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't turn it on often, but I've seen it since then.
I just kind of lost interest with it, but I'm more or less just here to write the story.
Right. So you don't feel like the game environment suffers, and obviously there are some people for whom the coolness of the clickable nature of the game still matters, but we're losing the people who care about that anyways, don't you think?
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Right. I mean, how long are you going to play that when you could be playing? Pick a game. What just came out? Diablo 3. I mean, you want to play clicks.
I have that on my computer.
There you go. You want to play clicks. You don't really play what we do you? It's really now for guys who enjoy the creative writing and characterization aspect of it. Or am I missing something?
No, I think this is probably the most interactive MMO that you can get.
Right.
And anything that basically involves putting yourself in there as a writer, as a part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to be able to do that in Diablo. No matter how many times you play through that game, guess what? You're going to eventually beat Diablo, and you're going to arrive at all the same plot points.
Absolutely.
So that's what kind of, for me, that's what kind of keeps this going as opposed to a Diablo or a Mass Effect or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. And I think that's also probably why we see the shrinking pool. It demands more time.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Right? You can't sit down for 35 minutes and just start in and click. You got to read at least a little bit so you can know where to start in. Otherwise, you're basically just putting up a story in segments that no one interacts with.
I mean, Jake Price can sit down for 30 minutes and just write out whatever he wants. Hey, look at me. I'm a heel.
I'm stunned. I mean, I know you went off on him on the board. You came on and went off on him too.
Of course. Why wouldn't I?
That's awesome. Eric, don't get upset. You have white heat with Benny.
Until I go to the middle of the stairs and stand there.
Wow.
because of
Wow.
the chair.
And then somebody's going to get an email saying, I'm not in a wheelchair.
But see, yeah, me and Eric go way back. Like he was even in the CWO when I came up my first month.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. So I've made fun of him at length for 13 years.
Right.
Like I feel like I have a safety.
You're allowed to do this, are you?
AOD for life.
Let me ask a question that that might provoke a slightly controversial answer. Does it help the game
Does what help the game?
that there's not competing sites with such a small group?
I would say yes. Just
It all
because. Well, just because. Like I said earlier, like in the last 2 years, I don't think I've actively gone on, and I don't think I've read a post in Wrassle besides Colts, because I go on and I see names and I'm just like, I really don't care what these people have to say. And that might sound kind of like I'm an asshole or something, but that's just the way it is. Like if I clicked on and Prototype was back, I would probably go to Wrassle.
Right. So you were going to jump in and say, a more cautious and probably politically correct answer, Jason, which disappoints me deeply. But let's hear it.
I just think it depends. I think if there's competition, it'll hopefully push each site to improve the game in some way.
Okay.
Obviously, that wasn't really happening. I think since Wrassle came back, the only thing they've really improved is their the sim and how they're tracking heat.
Mm-hmm.
We really haven't had any progress as far as what we wanted to do, from what I could see.
Yeah, that's
maybe
that's
I'm
fair.
wrong.
You're not.
But at the same time, now let's say Wrassle does go out, move out of the picture. If we don't get, if a lot of those guys over there are intimidated to come over, then nothing was really, nothing positive comes out of it.
Right. Well, that's a fair answer. I felt like there was a chance you could go in either direction. I think there's also an argument to be made that the playing community has grown small enough it can't afford to be divided in any way.
I 100% agree. And, we've agreed on that when we tried to merge last time as well.
Now, is that when I was evil and kept us all apart?
Yes, it was all your fault.
It is. And I have taken the moniker of fake online wrestling role play Satan, and that will be my name forever now.
Jeff, we were very, very close to the merger until they said, "What do you mean he can't be on the executive committee?" And we were like, "Oh," and I think it was Lars or Gino was like, "Sorry, we just can't do that." And I was all willing to get rid of you in a second.
To throw me under the bus, I appreciate that.
In a second.
And you can confirm for everybody, I had already said I was willing to step aside if you guys could find a path forward without me that worked.
Yes, you were.
But I appreciate that the rest of you kind of looked at it and went, no, we're not doing that. I do think that was really cool of you guys.
Just think how much more time you could have given to portraying Austin James.
Classic. We almost made it. What are we, 20 minutes in without you getting in a Jeff is secretly Austin James blast? Well done. I did see. Did everybody see Gino's post in which he accused Chance of being Austin James? It was awesome. Did everybody see it?
Oh yeah.
Is that a serious question to me?
Did you see it?
Come on. Why would I see that? No, actually, I have read the boards a little bit this week.
It's on I think it's on the free for all or something. I can't remember where it is. But he basically, it became a let's guess who Austin James is. And there was a lot of guesses, which I thought were entertaining. And he said, I think it's Chance with a spell checker. Exhibit
Yes.
A, he has a brother who hates him. It was great. I literally laughed really loudly and then got yelled at by my wife because it was late at night.
Oh yeah.
It was that. I mean, Gino's a douche. The absence of douche in this interview is really, it's almost palpable.
Well, I could probably step in and fill the void.
I don't know. He's pretty douchey.
Yeah, this is true.
He's got it down. Okay, well, let's give you a chance to step in and fill the void. You really, how should we put this? You responded strongly to Icehawg's comments.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, I came up after, going off to Mav's original CWA and then coming into Wrassle, like Burnt and just all the guys on whatever their, super secret inter circle was, were basically, like too cool, or like they'd talk to you not too often. And Icehawg was always the one that I could actually talk to. Like he'd be around and just the shit. And then it just strikes me as he's watched basically his game for a decade dwindle and dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And now it's on its basically, dying legs.
Right.
And yes, of course he's going to come out and say, look, guys, I'm sorry. I can't keep the server going. I got to get back to real life. I've done this for long enough. It's been fun. It's been great. Oh, and also, fuck you, Gray. And it was just like I when Gino showed me that last night, I was just like, the fuck? Because Ice was always like the cool uncle,
Yeah. I'll admit, I was reading along and I'm like, and I didn't get any warning that he went off on me when it was sent to me by somebody. It was just a, hey, you should read this. All right. And I got through the first two paragraphs. I'm like, wow, I actually said, that kind of sucks. And then I got to the next paragraph and I was like, wow.
It's like, yeah, go fuck yourself with a carrot, Ice.
Yeah. Okay. That was a blindside. I didn't think that the announcement that Wrassle needed to close needed to come with a personal attack, but
that's even the thing, is the personal attack really took away from what should have been, this big kind of sadly tinged announcement. Although I think we could all see it coming.
Yeah,
a lot of us weren't surprised, but at the same time, I mean, when you're basically, he's an ambassador for that site, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he comes out and he says, blah, 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 we need to close. I'm really sorry, guys. Also, this other guy's an asshole. Oh, and he is the only board that's still open. But don't go there. He's a dick.
Well,
and I'm just sitting there, like, scratching my head going, really, Ice? Wow. Because that disappoints me,
I actually felt a little bad for him that he's had to clearly live with some animosity that, they always say you get in an argument, you go home and stew about it, and it's really only you that's being affected because the other guy's sleeping, he's not thinking about you at all. That's this situation. It came out of the blue, and then I kind of felt a little bad for him because clearly something has occurred. Then I've been under his skin enough that he had to blow up. I haven't given Ice a second thought a single time in my life. It's just how it is. So hopefully he'll get over it and not have to keep living angry. Although if he's got the Quebecois in him, he'll never get the anger out completely. Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe he listened to the podcast and heard me blast off on the Quebecois.
It could be. Yeah, I mean, either way, he's still got to learn to die with dignity.
I did kind of like that you dropped that line in there. That was very Benny of you. Die with some dignity.
Gino came back to me last night. He's like, wow, we got serious Benny on that one. I was like, what is being a dick?
I was very surprised. I didn't see that you guys had responded until this morning, and then I think I dropped you a line this morning to say, hey, that was really cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even said anything about it if Ice, just in that last line, wasn't like, Oh, also, by the way, guys, fuck Gray. Like, go to Canada and beat him up.
Yeah. Here's my address. Drop on by.
In
Yeah,
his
like,
defense, he didn't mention Grayson by name. So it
Well,
could have been anyone.
Because that made it so much more mature.
I'm trying to
I
figure
know.
out what else rhymes with basin.
So the best part was have you been back to look at the thread where you responded?
Yeah.
So Fats took credit. He's like, I think he meant me. And I responded, but I also hit Fats up on MSN today and got a little bit of a chuckle out of him when I said to him, listen, no glomming my heat. And he just gave me a little bit of a laugh, and he said, I can't even get my own white heat. I'm like, no, that is clearly my heat.
It's white Canadian heat.
That's right. Well, we're all white up here.
I heard Toronto's pretty diverse.
It actually is.
Plenty of Asians in Toronto.
Yeah, not as many as there are in Vancouver.
That's true also.
Yeah.
Mm.
So with Wrassle going down and these guys really having to make some choices, some of them will probably just give up. I certainly saw, and I think Jason, you pointed out to me that it looked like Keebs was actually a little overwhelmed by the amount of posts that had been going on in Wrassle lately and was just ready for a break. One of the things that hangs out and comes up every so often is this sense that there's a super secret society of inner circle people in Federation X. And if you're not in it, you don't belong here.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what we are, right?
Well, Jeff, whatever.
I'm good with either.
Or homo.
I got your secret decoder ring in the mail.
I sent it to you.
Am I officially in now?
You're in. If you get the decoder ring, you are in.
But I still need to listen to all the Ovaltine commercials.
That's right.
Right.
That's part of the rules. But I think that message runs the risk of reaching out to some of these people. And we certainly saw it if you've looked at any of the OOC discussions on the UCE board. You'll see that there are some people making comments like they'll if you don't have really thick skin, they'll run you off. And I think that was obese. And I don't think he's specifically suggesting that we have an inner circle so much as he's saying we play a little hardcore, and if you can't handle it, you're going to run away.
Well, I don't know if it's you need to have really thick skin or else you're a pussy. I think it's more or less you need to learn to disconnect yourself from the character and have him or her just live in this world that we've all built.
Right.
Like I've told a lot of people that have come to me with questions about how do I do this, how do I do this, or Benny just did this to me. What do I write? Like you need to take yourself away from the character.
Right.
It's not you as a wrestler. It's whoever you're writing about.
Right.
And that's what I have. I don't know. I tend to gravitate and focus in and try to bring the hammer down on a lot of those people that they just seem like they're too tied into their characters or they have their personal emotions or their personal self-worth,
derived from what happens to the character.
Exactly. And you can't play this like that because you're just the narrator or the writer or
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair, and I do think that there are guys that suffer from that. I think, we've talked about it in the past, I think Mountain had a hard time separating the good guys, calling him a heel, from the fact that we, the guys behind the good guys, knew that he was trying to play a face. I think he thought we weren't selling him properly because we called him a heel. He couldn't distinguish it.
And I think a lot of people miss that because they're too focused on, oh my God, I was just called a heel.
Right.
And you're not sitting there going, okay, let me read this. Okay, I see what they're going for there.
Right.
And they just sit there and they either get an emotional response out of it or they shut up.
Yeah. And there's definitely a difference, right? And
oh yeah.
We've got now, I think Ice was telling me they've got 27 characters, and I think there's 21 players. So what do we think when we know that some of those players have heard this message? They've heard the idea that if you don't get your secret decoder ring, if you're not invited into the inner circle, you probably shouldn't go there. I mean, I have some pretty strong opinions about it, but I'd like to hear, the take. I mean, X certainly has been around a long time, but he can remember when he wasn't in the inner circle of FedEx, and you haven't been here long enough. You just got your decoder ring in the mail, so
I did. It took 2 years, but I got it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was the first time. I mean, you came to me, what, a week ago?
Mhm.
Said, hey, some people think there's a secret inner circle in FedEx. I was like, what? Like, that didn't even, like, I had never even thought about that before. I can see how some people would think that.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, you probably have to come in and, take a few lumps.
You know what
I think everybody needs to come in and take a few lumps.
I think you have to come in, and I think you have to prove that you're going to put in a consistent effort. And the one thing I think that stands out here that maybe, and I know every commissioner and every Fed and Wrassle and Brawls and wherever you played would have said, no, I demanded this from players, but I think FedEx demands you to be a better seller than any other place I've played.
It really does. If you can't carry a story, or if you can't read a character, I mean, it's taken me probably a good 6, 7, 8 months to actually get Marlowe's character down where I feel comfortable observe around him.
Yeah, you this latest run, Randy keeps saying to me, he writes a book every time. Like I look at it, I'm like, how long am I going to be reading for? I said, but then when I'm finished, I'm always very pleased that I read it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think that's what everybody ought to try to do, but obviously everybody's not in it for the same reasons.
No, it's true.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, I've always looked at it as you're here to write a story. I mean, and you're basically writing a story with a whole cavalcade of authors.
Mm-hmm.
And each individual person has their own ideas about how their character acts. And you need to be able to sit back and kind of read and get a feel for like a Marlowe or a Benny or whoever Jake Price is pretending to be this week.
You can't help it.
I can't help it. It comes up.
To be fair, I don't think they need to spend a lot of time studying Benny. In fact, I think the less effectively they sell him, the more you have to work with.
That's basically true, because I mean, I don't even really sell Benny like week to week, yeah, but he'll go off on his own little tangents. It's more about whatever situation he's in and whatever word or phrase or I don't know, anything can set me off and I'll go off on a tangent and then I'll write about it for 3,000 words and Marlowe will yell at me the next morning.
Yep. I got to tell you that I love the okay guys.
I do what I can.
It is a great response to the lack of good guys.
Yeah. I just kind of figured like I'm kind of ambivalent about the whole wrestling thing anyway. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Jason, you clearly had a time when you didn't know any of us, when you jumped over to give FedEx a try. Now, admittedly, it was a long time ago. Did you feel like it was any different than just trying to break in any Fed?
No, it was pretty much the same thing. And going in, from what I recall, I heard rumblings from a few people how, oh, well, they, I think back then you were doing, with how we were set up at Wrassle, based on your activity level, you would get a certain bonus each month or something like that.
Yeah, bonuses were handed out based on what you did,
right,
as opposed to just signing for a bigger bonus.
I always thought that was silly, but continue.
So I remember hearing some rumblings. Oh, they give bonuses to to their favorites and this and that. But I went anyway because why wouldn't I? Try something new where, from what I had heard, the roleplay was a little more fun. And, like we said, it was pretty much the same as me going to a new Fed where I really didn't work with most of the people. So I kind of had to get myself acclimated there.
Right.
Back then, the style wasn't too much different from Wrassle roleplay, what I remember. But then when we relaunched, what was it, 2008 or something, 2010?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
No, it's about 5 years ago.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I didn't come. I originally didn't come over at first, if you remember.
I do remember.
I think it took me a couple of months.
I think I accused you of being part of the secret inner circle of Wrassle.
Listen, I'll fully admit, even up until our last negotiations trying to merge with them,
I know.
I always had some loyalty to them.
I know you did. And I never, even though you're in our inner circle, I never kicked you out for it.
I was always feeding them all the inside information. But no, and for anybody that thinks there's an inner circle, maybe it seems like that, but the only reason it might seem like that is because the people that are accused of being in the inner circle tend to be some of our more talented players.
And at the same time have played together for
right,
5, 6, 7. I mean, me and Osiris or Ridgeway, whatever, have basically been playing off and on together for 13 years.
Right.
And like that's some of the things that you run into.
Absolutely. I'll tell you guys that this came up the other day. I was having a conversation with somebody who was very decidedly in my super secret inner circle society thing. Frank is the very first person, and for those of you who don't know or didn't listen when I mentioned it before, Frank plays Reverend Future. Frank is the very first person I ever played with in C-Slam. I was there for 2 days before I started my very first angle, and it was with him. So we go back a long way. And he brought it up because he's one of those guys I think a lot of people have confidence that they can go and kind of share with. And he said, I think maybe there's a problem. And Frank and I are from two very different circles. And before I finish this story, I see that Miller's online. So why don't we drag him in and see if we can add him? What do you guys think?
Yeah, you guys go ahead and add him. I'm going to run upstairs and take a Jake Price real quick.
Oh, wow.
Be right back.
Deal.
What's that? A typo?
Yeah. Oh, listen, you guys are just piling on.
Well, I'm glad that Gino's done counting his tips from giving hand jobs tonight.
Yeah. Let's see if we can drag him in here and add him to the conversation. We're doing it right now.
The douche level is increasing as we speak.
Yeah, we are growing our douche even now.
It's a douche erection.
Oh. So listening to Benny rag on Jake, do you get the feeling like if we have Jake on, there might be a little quid pro quo going on?
I would like to hear that one day. And I'd like to have Rude on as well.
Listen, the only thing that'll make the Jake Price interview better is if he comes on with one of those voice box modulators.
Oh God,
that'll be
jerk
gold.
off to that.
Are you with us, Miller?
Did you guys start without me?
Not only did we start without you, we're going to finish without you.
Did I get kicked out of the inner circle?
You are out of the inner circle, and your timing's perfect because we were just talking about that, and then Benny decided he was going to run upstairs for a break while we logged you in. So while Benny's gone, let's back off the inner circle and let's talk briefly about with you about the fact that Wrassle has announced that they're closing again.
Well, the feelings would have been a little more nostalgic without the dick move from Icehawg at the end there. I just feel that
$11 million.
11 million. Whose MSN name today was, how much is that in Australian dollars?
That was mine.
Gold.
I just, if you were making an announcement about the closing of FedEx, you would not just throw in cheap shots at other people at the end. You'd be thanking the people that, helped the game go. I didn't see any of that from Icehawg. I just saw, let me shit on Grayson.
But for good reason.
Because I'm Satan.
Yes, exactly.
And it's just funny. The biggest reason we didn't want to go over there is because the people that would be making all the decisions didn't really care anymore. And now, 4 months later after the big relaunch, we're shutting down because I remembered I don't care.
Yeah,
That's basically what he said.
Yeah, let me just throw this out there so that everybody knows. I found out about it because I heard from Colt. And Colt logged on to FedEx and sent me a PM and just said candidly, it looks like we're done again. I have always been connected to the game. I like being involved in the game. I've got a lot of experience. If there's anything that I can do to contribute with and be involved with Federation X, I'd like to. Is that okay? And I sent something back just so everybody knows to say, we would love to have your experience and whatever time you feel you can give. And it looks like Rude's just logged in, so I'm going to drag him over.
No, why would you do that?
Because this is what we do. So let's see if he jumps in and we'll get his thoughts. And then hopefully Benny will be back and we can move forward and listen to Benny crap all over Jake Price again.
Jeff, before we get Rude's thoughts, I would just like to offer Icehawg an idea. If he wants to get money for the site going, being I was the idea maker of the ATM, PM me, email me. I'll come up with another brilliant plan to make some money for you guys.
Rudy, you with us now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey.
Where were you, faggot?
I don't know. Fucking your mom.
Well, it took you long enough.
Well, she requires a lot of tender love and care. I gotta take my time.
There is clearly a different element to the show right now. It was a different show 5 minutes ago.
Was it happier?
Well, I think the douche meter went up about 2 minutes ago. We just heard from Jason. Benny and Johnny and I spent some time talking about the closing of Wrassle and the announcement that came out yesterday. Do you have any thoughts? What was your initial reaction? Do you even care at this point?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think Icehawg is on the money. You are, in fact, a cunt.
Yep, I can live with that.
Look, I've been saying that since day one, just to say.
So you're saying that Icehawg plagiarized? It wasn't even an original thought?
I think he took my shit, man. Like, if you remember correctly, wasn't it me that came and wanted to destroy FedEx with Wrassle's backing?
That was your angle 5 years ago.
Man, that was a good time. Can we go back to that?
We'd have more players if we went back to that.
Man, I was so much more relevant then.
Yeah, we actually have Rude posting more than once a week.
That's right.
Yeah, I actually gave a shit back then. Now I go to the border like, man, I don't really doing this.
That's because you're not very good.
Well,
wow,
I know this. I mean, don't you know I'm Captain Shock and Awe?
You have no idea. Wait till you listen to his earlier comments. He's taking it easy on you. He's been crapping all over your brother.
Oh, what, Eric?
Oh, yeah? You have another one?
Well, the other one's dead, but
Oh,
see, now the podcast just got dark.
A little awkward.
Well, you have a dead brother too?
Well, he was a baby, so now what?
Oh, I was going to ask if he's in a wheelchair, but no. Baby,
so your dead brother's more active than you.
Exactly, yeah. Pretty much.
Oh.
He cares way more than I do.
Wow.
Definitely funnier, too.
What was being said about Eric? I can see if I can agree or disagree.
You'll agree with most of what Matt said, I think.
According to Miller, I hate my brother, so I need to know what's going on.
That was so funny, Miller. I gave you credit for that, by the way.
That was pretty tight, actually.
Yeah, I was basically separating the two, saying it's okay if I call Jake Price a retard because me and E go way back and AOD is for life.
This is true.
It's for realsies.
He was like the only serious AODer, though. He was straight, lesbian to the rest of the wacky people.
He was always like the whole Sesame Street. One of these things isn't like the other.
Right.
That was him.
What, everybody can walk and he couldn't?
He had a lot of good
There's
comedy
that
moments.
too.
Wow.
Most of them were unintentional, though.
Well, he's on a road to redemption.
Redemption.
So.
This is really, really turning into a crap fest on.
Look, Eric, if you're listening, dude, like, I love you. Just remember that while you're planning to kill me.
And Eric, if you're still listening, I love you too, but not like Mike loved you.
Wow.
Hey, before Mike, it was Chuck.
It's true, Eric. You were the common denominator.
Hey, I actually asked Eric who was a better husband, Mike or Chuck.
You did not.
Chuck
I
now?
did. Apparently, Mike was better because Chuck always wanted to fight with him, or something. Like Chuck
was
would,
abusive.
So Chuck sounds like it's a real marriage.
well, Chuck would get into a rage and want to quit whatever Fed they were in, and like no matter what Eric had going on in the Fed, like if he had a good run going, Chuck would get pissed at the commission, like, "Well, that's it, I'm leaving," and Eric's like, "Well, I guess I'm gonna leave now. Fuck."
I thought Kitty's name was Dan.
No, this is before Kitty. This is like the before the Kitty quit became a thing. You know, Chuck originated it, man. I'm telling you.
Who the fuck is Chuck?
Danny,
Crazy Ivan, right?
Ivan,
Yeah.
Okay.
Death Killer.
Death Killer. That's right.
Oh, he was Death
Yeah.
Killer?
Yeah.
He was Death Killer, yeah.
Couldn't you tell by the way Death Killer tagged with one of Eric's alts?
I probably didn't put two and two together back then.
You probably didn't put two and I give a damn together.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
But to get back to the Wrassle thing real quick, when I saw the announcement, honestly, the first thing I thought was a little bit of a depression for Cult's sake, because he and I had a conversation a few weeks ago about how he was working on the engine, working on these items that wrestlers could buy and things, and he was really proud of it. He wanted to actually come in here and talk about it, but then after Ice made that announcement, I'm kind of wondering how much heads up Cult had, because it seemed kind of random to me based on the reading.
Yeah, based on the conversation that I had with Philly, I don't think anybody got a heads up.
Well,
No,
that just makes
I'm only
sense,
speculating, but
doesn't it?
Colt contacted me after that post was already up on the board, so I don't have any reason to believe that if Philly didn't get notice, I'd be surprised if anybody.
I mean, you think they would have took away the option to sell Extreme memberships and donate to their exorbitant server costs that Icehawg's been paying out of his Quebecy pocket.
Well, you know, he hasn't been able to eat any Putin.
So we did touch briefly on the fact that maybe the reason that I'm evil is that he heard a podcast in which I blasted the Quebecois.
Well, you know, I'm
Could
sure that has
be.
something to do with it.
It's possible. I told you guys, those people get angry.
Well, if we get other Jeff on, we want to see if he has any comments about your feelings.
He probably is going to agree with all of them.
Man, you know, I bet you there's one Quebecois that heard the show and's like, well, I'm not like them. Oh, I am a good Quebecois.
Yeah, I'll bet other Jeff heard the show and went, I'm not like them. I am a lesbian vampire werewolf demon.
Yes.
Burn.
When he posts.
That's right. So we also asked the question, guys. Looking back now, is there something that you're going to miss with Wrassle not being there? And not so much because we don't all take off and go running to Wrassle every couple of years, but there was a clickable portion of that game that doesn't exist in FedEx because they had Hawk and he could code.
Click, what a dick.
Of the game.
Rude? Miller?
Wait,
Uh,
what are you asking?
Well,
I
just
heard the clicking.
yeah, and that's the point,
was
right?
me.
There's another level to the game over there that we don't have a coder to chase, which is the whole how to build a move engine and how to add things like items the way that Colt was working on, or having an arm wrestling competition, or
So wait. What you're asking me is if we miss a sim engine.
Yeah, he's asking you if you missed the gay wrestling part of our writing game.
Not especially, no.
I was trying to be a little more straight man than that, but why don't you just jump in and take over, Benny?
Of course. That's what I do.
The more complicated the engine, the more time you had to worry about it, which meant the less time you could actually spend role playing. And I never got it. Back when I was, a kid, had all the time in the world, sure, but I gotta fucking go to work,
Well, here's the thing.
Is it
a lot
cold
of
on the street
people-
corner, Gino?
Oh,
Not on my corner, Gino. You'll always have a home. But no,
you're in the South, though.
talk about
100%
the
professional.
talk about the sim aspect for a second. Honestly,
No, let's talk about the fact that Gino knows the
God
actual
damn it.
wording for that. 100% professional service. Discretion guaranteed.
Yeah, this is true.
Tipsies
You're
are
all-
extra.
Okay, now you can go, Jordan.
Oh, are you sure? Are you positive? Because I almost forgot.
Sing the Rainbow Connection for us.
Man, I don't want to anymore. Because it was funny because I was making the joke, but now it's not.
Pretty funny.
Look, maybe I'll close the show out with it. How about that?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Now, can I fucking finish what I was gonna say? Thank you. The thing
Oh,
about-
wait.
God damn it! Fuck it. Betty, what do you think about what he asked?
What? I wasn't paying attention. Weird, right?
That's a
Yeah,
common
yes.
theme when Jordan's talking.
This is
Common
true.
theme.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I
Jeff,
figured he
yes.
was going to talk about wrestling, so I kind of zoned out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Started drinking my beer again.
Oh, I should have got beer.
Oh, God, they know, right?
I've got a
But
scotch
anyway,
right
Jordan,
here.
proceed with the talking about the wrestling where men grope other men and people get boners
Hey,
over it.
don't talk shit about men groping other men. That's half of Colt's career.
Yeah, but Colt is over.
Oh, this is true.
You know who's also over, but kind of like the Holocaust is over because it's already over?
Hmm.
Jake.
Hey, he's the premier heel of Fed Good.
He's an amalgamation of every heel that I've ever seen.
He's the one that Alan introduced to lead the heel charge.
He's about as interesting as my remote control.
Wait, he's kind of supposed to be like Ted DiBiase with the money and shit.
Yeah, you know what? That's part of the reason I picked him. The other part of the reason that I picked him is that it got your brother focused and posting, which I think is a plus. Your brother, like I've said before, there are certain things that he does well that the game benefits from. And the other reason is that your brother has this plan to try and get some of the players who are stuck in this rut of being like I'm a badass, but the fans love, like everybody wants to be Steve Austin. And it's turned into a great big gray sludge of nothing. And your brother has a plan to say to some guys, listen, learn how to be an actual heel, be the bad guy. Fans aren't going to cheer for you. They're going to boo you. Get comfortable with it. And I like that. And I want him to do more of it. So yeah, I was happy to push him as the big heel signing because I think he'll put in the work.
Yeah, take that, Benny.
Yeah.
He told you.
Plus, Benny totally couldn't be my heel because he's Benny.
I can
What
do
now?
things.
No, you're Benny.
Trout.
I'm Alan. I can't even introduce you to the Fed.
No.
Yeah,
Benny
that's-
with a broken back could do a good heel.
Hey,
Seriously, you were quite the dick.
that's some white heat there.
It's serious. Like, I have writer's block because of you. I keep having to go to my thesaurus and come up with a better word, so Benny doesn't make fun of me.
Everybody knows your Google is broken, Gino.
We have a banner that's going to go up that says that, but Benny has to make the fine print bigger.
Yeah, apparently I made it too small. You guys need to get glasses.
Nobody can see it.
I can see it. But anyway, proceed.
Wait, what were we talking about?
You were going to
What
ask
are you
a
going to miss
question.
about Wrassle?
Oh, thankfully.
So what I
Not
was
much.
thinking,
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is.
Jordan, do you have an opinion? Or are you just going to keep stuttering?
I got nothing now. Motherfucker's gonna interrupt me.
Do you need
I'm
a,
gonna-
do you
I'm
need a
gonna
moment
miss-
to cry?
I'm going to miss all my title histories for my imaginary belts.
Oh
Okay.
man, those are pretty tight. Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna miss my Hall of Fame.
The
Fuck.
the user comments I would miss more than the actual record of the win.
You know what I would miss the most?
Hmm.
People waking up their family or people inhaling their coffee or Hank Hooligan spitting Sprite all over his keyboard because he laughed too hard.
Benny's having a proud morning because our friend Maverick choked his coffee out his nose reading a Benny post this morning.
Well, that's not unheard of.
As long as I can cause some sort of physical distress to a person through my post, I am happy.
Hey Benny, what do you think about Dangerous Dave Diamond or Delusional Dave Diamond, whatever the fuck his name is? Your least favorite character, correct?
That's not correct. My least
Warning.
favorite character is Storm, over the top silly. Dave, I can deal with. Storm, I just look at and go, you're the guy that won all the UTs or whatever in C-Slam.
UTIs.
Yes, that.
Dave Hodge gave it to him.
No, the one time Benny and Storm really interacted was I think Benny, Kill-All, Cannibal, and Homeless Jay were piloting their disaster-themed airships around UCE or something. The Hinden Benny and the Cantanic and stuff, which of course blew up or sank every post. But Storm ran an angle where he decided to go to the AOD graveyard at the UCE and resurrect a bunch of zombies. And I was actually okay with it up until the point where he called himself Stormfire.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I maybe want to rape him in the eye.
Exactly, right? Stormfire is one of...
He's the best of us.
Up to him, like he could weave in and out of, like you'd have a fourth wall and then he'd go around it, and he'd bring his narrator in. Stormfire was a god as far as this game is concerned.
I would certainly say Stormfire's writing influenced a lot of us AODers, including some of the fourth walling we do. We kind of borrowed from each other, especially from me. He definitely inspired me when I was an AOD. I don't know about you, Benny.
Oh, he was easily hands down. Like, Naked Man with the dick, Holy Evil was kind of apathetic funny. Naked Man is dick funny, Holy is apathetic funny. And then Stormfire was the one who kind of tied everything together. Like, he made sense, and he reached out to people, and, I think he tagged with Gent for a while, actually, too.
Really?
Gent was an AODer.
Yeah, Gent was.
That gets you a thumbs
Gent
up.
Or Gent is, right?
But has he ever had a herpes trout?
He has never had a herpes trout. Stormy did have an underwear-powered Jesus machine.
I don't even want to know.
Stormfire was the best of us.
Really fun. Stormy was the best of us. Hands down.
And so when Storm did that shit, I wanted to fly to Florida and kick him in the nuts.
Yeah, that's like Geno coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm genotype."
Huh? Let me Google that.
Geno.
Okay, what I'm going to miss about Wrassle is the URL. Because I want people to be able to find FedEx when they come back. And without that URL, they might not be able to.
Well, how long do the leases last on those?
Let's just buy the URL and redirect it.
I think Snowball still has CyberSlam.
Really?
I think so.
Have you Googled it in a while?
I might. Somebody do it for me. My Google works fine. I'm just lazy.
That's kind of the joke, Geno.
Yeah.
Genocide. Or Geno, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's funny because until you said that, I didn't realize, but I say genocide, but when it's shortened, I say Geno.
Yeah, see, I always said Geno. But
That's why it's a good nickname.
Right.
I also said Gino, but then again, pronunciation is subjective. I mean, I used to thought it was Titus Fox this whole time.
It's not
Apparently it's Fuchs or Fuchs.
Fuchs.
And with that, we will conclude part 1 of the Federation X Running on Tangents podcast focused on the closing of Wrassle.net. Join us for part 2.